did you decide to get married? Did Opa propose to you, or how did that happen?
That is a good question. I don't know. He must have, but I don't remember. I think that was automatically that you go for so long with each other, and then you decide. Well, then he decided he wanted to get married because he wanted to emigrate. So and then, yeah, that was it. We're going to get married. And that took a while because, yeah, I had to wait. My mother was up and down. I couldn't go. You can't go. And you have to be 22 before you get married because I was 22. Now, she couldn't have done anything if I had married sooner, as long as I was 21, because over 21, then you were your own boss. But yeah, we waited. I married the day after I turned 22. And we were already, that we went for our passports before, around Christmas time. And we didn't get married till July. So around Christmas time, we already had our passports. Yeah, because I was 21, she couldn't do anything about that. And then in March, we had to go to the Hague for medical inspection, like you had to get your medical inspection by a Canadian doctor. Yeah, how can you get a medical? You can't understand the guy. He can't understand Dutch and I can't understand English. But everything was fine. So everything came back okay. So that was good. And yeah, and then yeah, it went on and on because we didn't want to get married till we knew when we could leave. And that kept stretching out and out and out. There was no room because there were so many people leaving and so many families. And Tante Lena and Uncle John were lucky that somebody had given up their seats and that they got their plane. They could go by plane. They were planning on going by boat, but then they came by plane. And then we still couldn't get, and then finally there was a room on a freighter, but they had 12, they would take on 12 passengers, and no children. And that's what we got.
So tell me about your wedding.
Well, my wedding, that was in the morning, early in the morning, about 7 o'clock, the hairdresser came and she did my hair at home and put a veil on, and yeah, and I got dressed. The dressmaker made my dress, and so I got dressed. And then all the family from Dad came, all the way from Zomeren on their bikes, and they came to our house, and then we all gathered at our house, and then we walked from our house to the church, which is about 10 minutes. But that was very common that everybody did that when they got married, because there was no cars, or some people had a horse and a coach like the Queen. Yeah, not as fancy, but yeah, I didn't want anything with horses. So I said, no, we walk. And that was the cheapest. And we got married at 9 o'clock because that was cheaper than if you got married at 9:30, if you were a little bit more, like Tante Nell got married at 9:30. And Ome Wim got married at 10 o'clock. That was not even more money.
And what was the name of the church again?
Onze Lieve Vrouw Presentatie. So.
What do you remember about the when you were being married by the deacon? What was that like?
Well, all he does is say the mass, and then he comes and he says that little speech, whatever they give you. You have to promise that you will be faithful to each other and all that crap. And and that's it, and that does it. And then you finally you can go home. The church is over and you go home. You walk home.
And tell me again who the witnesses were? In the
Oh, my brother was witness for me, and his dad's brother was Uncle Jerry. He was a witness for Dad. In them days there was always guys, there were no girls. Madame and Uncle Tony got married in '66 when we went back, and Dad was for Uncle Tony, but for her was her sister.
Tell me about when you made the family portrait before you left. Like how did
That was the Sunday after we were married. We were married on a Tuesday morning, and the Sunday after we went to get the pictures taken.
Whose idea was it to take that picture?
Oh, I think it was my mother's idea because, yeah, I was going away, and I think it was her idea that we should have a family portrait. Because, yeah, you don't know if I was ever coming back, or, well, you didn't know if you could afford to come back. You hoped that you would come back in 1 or 2 years, but it took me 9 years before I get back for the first time. So, and then we left in August, and we got here in Canada in September. We were on a freight boat, which was nice because there was no kids allowed, and there was only 12 passengers allowed, so that was good. And we had our own cabin, and then the 12 passengers and the steward, the head steward or whatever you call him, and the captain of the boat, and yeah, there were 3 of them from the head. And then the 12 passengers with 15 people, we always ate in the same room. And the food was excellent. You couldn't have any better. And but it took us longer. And we left Holland, and by 8 o'clock you couldn't see Holland no more. It was gone, goodbye. That's when I started barfing, and I barfed till I got to Quebec. Holy smoke. So then, but otherwise it was good. I was not the only one. There was a woman from California, and she was young too. And her and I, they told us we had to sit outside because we did nothing but barf. So, and we had to eat. They made us eat. And then the others ate inside, and then some days they would come out and standing right beside us. Yeah, no wonder that we had to. So anyways, then when we got to Quebec, oh, that was really something. A neighbor of us that lived next door at home, he emigrated the year before. John was his name, John Kottenbach. And he lived there, and he knew we were coming, and he had written us a letter that he would be at the docks to visit us. Okay, here we come. It was 80 degrees when we arrived. The temperature was 80 degrees. I was wearing an undershirt, a bra, a slip, a wool dress, pure wool, with long sleeves, high on the neck, a winter coat, scarf, and a winter hat. And it was 80 degrees. Now he saw us coming and he fainted. And I swear that it was because the way he saw me coming off that boat. Oh God. So then we had a talk with him, but then we had to go to the train station because we were to go to London. And so we came here we went to the train station, and then they took us to Toronto, from Montreal to Toronto. And then Oh, that took forever. It was 11 o'clock at night, and before we could leave Toronto, so I was worried, and Dad was falling asleep in the train, and I was worried that we were going too far, and I couldn't talk English or nothing, so I had to nudge him awake all the time. So finally we got to Toronto, then we got to get another train to London, and that was the CP in them days. London has at that time had two stations, one CP and one the other one. So we went, we got off in Richmond Street there, and there was two taxis and three people got off the train. One was a girl, and Dad and I. So the one guy went to the girl, the taxi, and the other guy came to us, and that was pure luck. So as good as Dad could talk English, he tried, and he gave him the address. We had to go to Lucan. Lucan is north of London, and we had to go there to a family, and there was Dad knew that, I didn't know them, but Dad knew them. And they had 10 kids, or 12 kids. And 6 of them were at home, and 6 of them were in the tobacco working, the older ones. So we had an address of RR something. Yeah, RR2 or RR4. But yeah, that's in the country. So the taxi driver says, well, we'll go to a telephone. So he went to a telephone, and we did have the telephone number from them people. So he called them, and that was in the middle of the night, because we got there at 1:45 in London, so that was in the middle of the night. So the people said, yeah, we were gone too far because we had to go back up and by the Catholic church, when you see that, and then the second house past the Catholic church, that's where they were. So they would put the lights on. Okay, so the taxi driver drives us there. And in the way from London to Lucan, Dad tried to talk to him, but we knew, on paper we had a job and we could live with these people. But in real, we knew we couldn't. We couldn't stay there with all them kids, and he had no job. That was only on paper. And so the guy says, well, my brother has a garage in Rannoch, which was outside of St. Mary's. It's not too far from here, he says, and he needs a mechanic. So when we were at them people's house, he gave the address and the telephone number and everything. So in the morning, so we didn't go to bed till about 5 o'clock. Yeah, well, there were 6 kids up there, that was okay, and there was a curtain in between, and then the young married couple. So then we, in the morning after breakfast, they called Uncle John. Uncle John was living in London. If we had known that, we could have stayed with them. So, but that what happened when we were on the boat. So Uncle John came, and Tante Lena, they had a car because he had to drive to St. Mary's to work every day. So he came to pick us up, and so then he went with us to Rannoch. Dad got the job. He could start the next morning. We went down to St. Mary's downtown, and he got his driver's license right away in Uncle John's car. Yeah, well, he was a mechanic, so he knew how to drive. So he got a job, and we were told on Saturday we could move in with them, and I could do the work there. So I stayed Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with Tante Lena's in London. But they only had 2 rooms, an apartment, a bedroom and a kitchen. And that was it. So we stayed there. We slept in the kitchen and they slept in the bedroom. And then on Saturday morning, we went to, Dad drove Uncle John to work. And then we took our suitcases and we went to them people's house. And we settled in there But yeah, I couldn't speak English, and that was hard. And they had 3 little kids. Then the woman went to work as a nurse in St. Mary's Hospital. And then I had to take over the house. I had to do the cleaning, the cooking, everything. What a job. And look after the kids. One went to school. She had just turned 6. And then they had twins, a boy and a girl. And they were, the Tuesday after we got there, they just turned 4 years old then. They were cute kids and they were good. And they liked me, yeah, because I let them do anything, because I couldn't say anything. So that's how I learned English, from them kids mostly. And then the woman was okay too when she comes home at night. If I said something wrong, she would make me repeat it. And you don't mind if there's only one person, but if you're in the front of a lot of people, you don't like that. But them kids, oh, they would, you don't say it like this, you say that, and you say it like that. Okay, so, and that's how we stayed there from September till the 1st of April. Then I got pregnant in the meantime. So I wanted to be on my own. So then we rented a farmhouse for $30 a month. And then there was a guy, a Dutchman, and he was a mechanic too, and he worked with Dad at the same, but he had a place that he would want to stay, so he stayed with us. So he paid me $15. No, $10 a week. And the rent was $30 a month, so that worked out perfect. So then, it was June, and Dad could see that, yeah, the farmers took all the machinery to the farms. There was nothing to be fixed anymore. And he could see the writing on the wall that he was going to be without a job. So it was May, the long weekend in May. And the single guy, he had his own car, a little Vauxhall. And he says, my Uncle Jerry had arrived in the meantime, and he went to Sault Ste. Marie. And so we were going to go to, Uncle Jerry says there's lots of jobs in the Soo. You can find a job here anywhere. So we were going to go for a weekend to the Soo, and Nelson said that was fine with him. So we went to the Soo. Now that was really something. And the guy that lived there, he had loaned us money in Holland, because he had black market money. He sold his farm, but you only were allowed so much money. And then, yeah, you couldn't take that other money with you. So he took a chance. So Uncle Jerry borrowed money from him, and we borrowed money from him, and he had other people borrow money from him. So we borrowed 2,500 guilders at the time. And we had to pay it back here in dollars. And we were supposed to pay back $625. Now we had from 1952, August 1952, till August 1954 to pay it back, 2 years. So when we went there to visit, to see what Sault Ste. Marie was like, I had enough money saved up that I had the $625 to pay him back. And we had $200 worth of furniture bought in for that house. So I took the $625 with me, and they were so impressed. Yeah, because it was only in May, so, and we still had a year and a half to go. So she says, okay, 600 is enough. The 25 you can, and in them days, $25 was a lot of money. And she gave me a brand, because yeah, they brought all new stuff, the new blankets and stuff. So she says, can you use a blanket? I said, sure. And she says, well, here is a nice new blanket for you. So she gave me a new blanket for a double bed and gave me back $25. So I was a lucky girl. So, but then I thought, oh my God, Dad could get a job right away. He could start. And I thought to myself, holy shit, if I have to live here, we had to get the water in the creek. That's where you had to go to get your water and stuff like that. And it was in the middle of nowhere. And the Soo was not for me. So I cried almost the whole way home. So then our boarder, he says, Harry, you can't do that, take her, because she's gonna die of loneliness when she goes out there. But yeah, then Nelson says, well, I haven't got a job anymore. He says, you have to do something. So, okay. I said, yeah, all right. She was, your mother, I was pregnant with her. She was due in July. Now here we are into June. So I said, yeah, all right. So we sold all the stuff that we had. We only kept the box that came from Holland with all our stuff. And we packed everything back in that box. And we bought a new washing machine, brand new, an electric, a ringer washer, but it was okay, it went electric. And so then we took that with us to the Soo. And all the other stuff, the $200 we spent on our furniture, we got $200 back, selling it all to these Dutch people that had come, because yeah, they needed stuff. So we were good. So we got them $200, the little bit else that I had saved, because we didn't smoke, we didn't drink. Well, we did have a car, but he sold the car, so we had that money again. So we had a little bit of money with us, and then we went to the Soo. We left on a Saturday night by train, and then we got there at 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday. So they came and picked us up. We stayed with them people from Sunday till Friday. By Friday we finally had rented an apartment. It was not easy to rent, there was not much for rent. But we had a 2-bedroom apartment. Then Uncle Jerry came to live with us in that apartment. And yeah, from there on, then we lived there from that time, from the end of June till Halloween. Halloween night, Halloween day, we moved to because it was getting cold up there in that apartment. And he was from the Ukraine, and he wouldn't turn the heat on. And I had a baby, and I had to put her in the closet. Her crib in the walking, there was a little walk-in closet, and I had to put her crib in there so that she was out of the draft, to keep her warm. And she was in a clothes basket, that was her crib. And so then we found a 2-room house. I've never taken a picture of the house, I was so ashamed of it, but at least, well, we could heat. There was a stove in it, and there was a coal stove, and we heated it with that. There was a bedroom and a kitchen. There was no water, there was no toilet. The water, we had to go at the guy's house, the owner that rented us that place. We had to get the water in his basement. The toilet was an outhouse. Well, I used the diaper pail, I'm telling you. And that's where I went on, and then went and took the diaper pail to the outhouse and rinsed it out. And I wasn't going to sit on that thing. So then we stayed there from Halloween till March. In the meantime, we met some people. We met Tante Jos and de Vermeers. We met de Vermeers. And so we we said to Tante Jos, Tante Jos came over and she says, well, her brother-in-law got a job in Toronto, maar he had a house and he had a lease on it. Could we take the lease over if we would want it? Oh boy, it was in town, and of course we would take the lease over. So we went and moved there in March. Then Uncle Jerry came to live with us there, and 3 of his friends were out of work. They just got sacked at the steel plant. So, and yeah, Dad was the only one working. Okay, so we took them in, because yeah, it was a 3-bedroom home. So we took them in. Then the one guy, they couldn't pay us, so the one guy left for Hamilton, because he had friends there and he thought he could get a job in Hamilton. So them people, the other 2 stayed with us. Then we had, then Father Jackman from the church came over, and he says, well, your husband has a job. He comes to me first to butter me up. So your husband has a job. These people, I didn't know them from Adam at the time, but they were Dutch, and they had 2 kids. She was pregnant with number 3. I was pregnant with number 2. Could we take them in till he found them a job, because they had to get out of that house? Yeah, so I tried to butter up Dad, and he says, yeah, well, if it was us, we would be happy. So if it is okay with you, I said, yeah, let us do it. So we took them people in. Then we got rid of these other guys because they got their job back. So then we got them people. Then in the long weekend in May, we took them people. Father Jackman made sure that they got a job in Little Current, that is on Manitoulin Island. So, and we were going to Strathroy for a holiday for a week. So we said, okay, to Father Jackman, we will take him as far as Little Current, because I was glad to get rid of him. So, okay, we took him to Little Current, and then we are going back on to our holiday, and then we come back. Then John was born. And Tante Jos, you remember Tante Jos, don't you? And she had a sister living, a sister of her husband was living with them, and a husband. And they had 1 kid. Joe was born in May. Onze Jean in July, Joe in May, and Tante Jos's Bill was born in February, so there was 3. So when our John was born, I had to go to the hospital, so Tante Jos and Joe came during the day to stay at my house, to look after ons Wilma, and after their kids, and to do stuff, to clean up and to look after the house. And then I was a week in the hospital, and then I come home. Then we got the christening from onze Jean on the Sunday in the church. So, and Koos was still staying with us too, the one guy, because he didn't get his job back yet. John did, but Koos didn't. They were 2 brothers. So Koos was, and he worked on Sundays at the hospital in the laundry, and he would get paid $7 for that. And that was his whole pay that he got. He got no other money. And what he do, he goes to the bootlegger and drink it all up, and then he comes home. And that's it for the rest. But he was a drinker if he had the money. So that Sunday, that was the first time that we ever had a case of beer in the house. Yeah, because the christening for her, we didn't have that, but for onze Jean we did, because Jo and Nol and Jos and him were there. So we did. Then, when we went to bed at night, and then really late at night, we slept in the living room, that was our bedroom. So Koos has to come, he was home late at night on Sundays. He has to come through the kitchen and through the dining room and through our bedroom. The stairs were in our bedroom to go up. And so he was crawling up and I could see him. I was still awake. Dad was asleep, I was still awake. So he went upstairs. So then in the morning, Joe is doing laundry and she comes to me with some pillowcases and she says, Ria, look, I was going to change the pillowcases on the bed. But, oh, they stink. And so I said, they stink like beer. And she says, yeah. I said, Jesus. I said, how much beer is there left in the fridge? Oh, there was no more beer left. So Koos had taken the beer out of the fridge. But then he had drunk it, plus all his money that he had made, he drank that up. So then, but I didn't know that. I thought it was Uncle Jerry that had done that, because I didn't know that Koos had been in the fridge. So Uncle Jerry comes home at lunchtime, and I gave him hell for using that beer. I said, without telling us, and then to put the beer bottle, he must have put the beer bottle in the closet or something. And he started to laugh so hard, and he says, you are so wrong. He says, Koos got the beer, he drank the beer, then he had to go to the bathroom and he couldn't find the bathroom, he was so drunk. And he went and he pissed in my linen closet. And that's why all my pillowcases smelled like beer. Oh, what a fun. So that was it. So then Koos finally found a job, and then it got cold. Winter was starting, and the Sioux was cold in the winter. So the winter was starting, and then there was a house for rent with a basement and a furnace. And this was so cold because there was no basement. So we went to see the house and we rented that house. And they had 2 bedrooms, one small one and one big one. So we took the big one and we put 2 cribs in the big one. And Uncle Jerry slept in a single bed in the little one. And then we had a living room and dining room and a galley kitchen, and then the basement. So we lived there from Halloween again till the next summer. And then of course I was pregnant with onze Toon again in the summer. So he was due in September, so we went looking for a house, to buy a house. So we finally bought a house on Wellington Street, main road, one of the main roads, a 3-bedroom home. And we moved in there on the 1st of August. And then Tony was born on the 9th of September. So we were there, and the day we moved in, on that Saturday, Great Vermeer came to help to clean up the house, because there was Italians that had lived there. And it was not very clean, so we had to clean it. So then Greet was, and all at once Greet said, oh, Wilma is sitting. She had the windows up upstairs, the bedroom windows open. And ons Wilma went upstairs and she went to sit on the windowsill upstairs. So Dad says, I'll go out the front and walk along the wall so to catch her. And Greet was going up the stairs from the inside and calling out to her, Wilma, come here and can you come to me? And Mount Wilma wasn't coming. Wilma stayed in the window seat because she could see out, right? And so Dad finally, and then Greet got into the room and she pulled her out. That was our first experience there on that house. Her sitting in the window. Well, she never done it again, I'll tell you. So then we lived there from August 55 till September 59. Dad went to Sarnia for a job. He couldn't take it anymore in the zoo. And he got laid off. He got fired. That's what he. And so then he says, he came home Thursday night. He says, as of tomorrow, I'm fired. I said, oh my God, what are we going to do now? He says, you can pack up and come with me if you want tomorrow night, and pack the kids up, and otherwise I'm going by myself, and I'm going to Sarnia to find a job. But I wasn't going to stay home alone with 3 kids, or 4 kids. I had 4 then. So I asked the woman next door, and she says, I take Shane. Let me have Shane. She only had 1 boy, and you go with him. And so the 3, Tony and John and Wilma, were in the back seat, and we drove in a 49 Chevy over the bridge. Well, it was a bridge then. There was that a bridge? No, it was a ferry. In 50. No, the bridge was open, I think, in 1540. That was 59. Yeah, the bridge was open, yeah. And so then we went to Sarnia, and he was there. We drove all night, and the first place he went to, there was John Highfield's father. There was a Pontiac garage, and he hired them right away, just like that. And he could start the week after Labor Day. Ho-ho! So there we are. We had our house, so we put our house up for sale with the real estate when we came back, because Dad was home that week, and so he put up the house for sale, and then he went that week after, on Friday, he went to Sarnia. I stayed home with the kids. Father Vermeer did go to the liquor store and got me 45 boxes, liquor store boxes. I packed everything in there. We had a big front porch, closed in, and all the boxes I had packed, put them all in the front porch, and everything. I took all my dressers, the drawers out. I carried drawer for drawer to the front porch, and then the dresser, step by step by step, all by myself. And then I put the drawers back in, and all in the front porch. So then Dad came home the last week of September on the Friday night, and I had everything done except the mattress had to still go down, and that was it. The 2 mattresses, Wilma's and the crib from the boys. So, but I was all packed to go. I gave everything away out of the garage to Amy's father that lived behind us, and he was driving a 54 Chevrolet, and Dad had all kinds of tools and parts. I said, here, that someday will be doing you some good. I cleaned all the toys and cleaned the garbage cans, packed them in the garbage cans. Everything was done. So Dad comes on Friday night. Saturday morning, he hired a truck from Sarnia, movers. Now they had to come over. They couldn't go because they had to come back with the stuff. So they couldn't go, so they came over Canada, which is 500 miles from Sarnia, the back way to Sault Ste. Marie. So they got there on Saturday in the morning. It took them 2.5 hours between the 2 guys and Dad to pack the truck. Then they went off. The real estate guy came. He says, well, I can't find anybody, but I can rent it for you. I had cleaned the whole house, so I still had to do the kitchen floor and the dining room floor, they were tile. I had to wax them. And the kids were next door, staying there, playing. And so I did that. And then the stuff that I took with me in the trunk, and we took the kids in the trunk, and we left that Saturday night. So then the real estate guy called later on, yeah, he rented it out, and we were getting rent every month, but it was still for sale. So then he sold the house in March. When we were when we came to Sarnia, we had Dad had rented the house. So we went to he had the key, so we went to the house. Oh, it was filthy. And yeah, I only had the most necessary things, eh? So in the morning on Saturday, we went to Sears and bought a new mattress for Jane's crib, because the mattress was, yeah, they had already 3 kids in them, so that was getting bad. So we bought a new mattress. It was only $10, so that was not bad. Then we brought that to that house. The night we slept there on the floor. Jane slept on the mattress, and we all slept on the floor, the kids and Dad and I. So then the guy next door, he found that kind of odd. And so he comes over, and yeah, he was a nice guy. Chester Brown was his name. He was nice, and oh, and you have nothing? No. Well, is there a restaurant close by that we can go to? That was in Point Edward, where we were. And he says, well, I'll do better. So he went to his wife, and so they made pancakes and they made eggs, and we had breakfast there. Very nice. And then the guy still hadn't shown up with and this was Sunday, with the stuff. So then the guys come, finally. But they can't unload because they have to have permission from the police. So then the police gets checked in, and he comes to look if it was necessary. And he comes in. What's that? I said, well, that's my little girl's bed. She's a 1.5 years old. I said, but we only have the mattress because we bought it here, but everything is on the truck. Well, is it really necessary? He said. I said, well, we slept on the floor. I said, and the girl slept on that mattress. Do you think it's necessary? I said to him, because I was beginning to get fed up. So he wrote out a permission slip, and they could, yeah, because them guys weren't going to do it because they would get fined if they emptied the truck. Yeah, you couldn't do that in them days. Yeah, I have no clue. Here, you move every day. And at home too, you move every day, but you couldn't then. So, well, we finally got moved in the afternoon. Well, it was afternoon before they. So then I got almost electrocuted in the basement, because then the basement had water in the basement, and the washing machine was standing there, and I was washing, and oh, I got shakes like that. Oh my God. Well, that was that. Oh God, we only lived there from September till Halloween. Halloween day, we moved again. We bought, in the meantime, our house was sold. So we had the money to put a down payment. No, our house wasn't sold. Not yet. But we had enough money to put a down payment. We only had to pay $1,000 on a down payment, and the house was 10,000 or something, 9,000 something. So we put $1,000 down, we painted it, and on Halloween we moved into that house. It had no basement, 3 bedrooms, a small living room and a big kitchen, and a little laundry room and a carport and a backyard, and that was it. So we moved in there. And then Then in March, we sold the house, the real estate sold the house. And so we got our money. Then in May, ons Wilma did her first communion. And they brought Dad home on a Friday afternoon from work. He got sick with his back. He had something with his discs in his back. So then Dad couldn't work anymore. Then Dad had to have a back operation. Then the doctor says, well, he has a 50-50 chance. A 50% chance that he was going to be an invalid for the rest of his life, or a 50% chance that he could get better. Well, thank you. And I'm sitting here with four kids. Thank God we sold the house. So Dad was off from May till September, the whole summer. He was home. In the meantime, who did we have visiting? Jan Kortenbach, that lived in Montreal, that fainted when we got here. He came with his mother and father and wife and 2 kids to visit in our little house. I put them all up for 3 days. I still don't know how we did. Yeah, well, but we did it. Can you believe it? That many people in one house? Oh my God.
Had to get creative about how you manage the space.
Oh! I still don't know how I did it. I still don't know.
When did you first take them to Holland from when you came here?
When was that? That was when I was pregnant with Michael. The whole month of March '61 I was in Holland with the 4 kids. And I was the only one parent with 4 kids on the plane. There was parents on the plane with kids, but they had 2 parents. But I was the only one that had 1 parent with 4 kids. And then I had onze Toon. And the plane came in, was supposed to come in from New York and couldn't come in on the account of the fog. So we couldn't leave. So we had to go to Tante Jos's place overnight because Dad had to drive home to Sarnia to go to work the next day. And so he dropped me off with 4 kids at Tante Jos. Tante Jos put these boys all in her bed for the time being, and then after we go to bed, they would go and sleep on the couch. And of course Tante Jos has a bed with a little cupboard on it. And onze Toon is the inspector, and so he inspects what there is in that cupboard. There was an inkwell in that cupboard, and he takes the inkwell and unscrews it and pours it all nicely on her brand, while they were almost brand new sheets that she had from Holland, the nice embroidered ones. What can I do? So then, well, I gave him a good licking, and then we went to sleep. I didn't sleep much, and then early in the morning we have to get up and get the kids ready, and Oma Hem drives me to Toronto Airport again. It was Malton then in them days. It was still a wooden airport. And so we went to Malton Airport, and then the plane came. We left in the afternoon. Then we were going to fly to Holland, but then we couldn't fly to Holland. So it was too foggy. So we finally flew into the north of Holland, the north province, as high as you can get, Groningen, and at a military airport. And that's where we went first to, where was it that we went first? Scotland or Ireland? Well, we stopped there. And that's where onze Toon went, on that tower. There was a TV tower, and I have 2 kids here and 2 kids there. And of course he runs out and he is on the TV tower. So there was a priest with us, because it was from the credit union that the flight was going. So there was a priest with us, and he talked them down. Dat was onze Toon weer. So then we went from there, 2 hours flying to the military airport in Groningen. We got there Groningen time around, that was Dutch time, around 5:30 or something. So it was still daylight. So then there was buses. 1 bus for the north of Holland and 2 buses for the south of Holland. For the 2 provinces in the south. So of course I'm in that bus. So then we got to the next province over and we had dinner there. They stopped at a restaurant and we all had dinner, and then and the kids would sleep in the bus. So it was 3 o'clock in the morning when I arrived in my hometown, in the middle on the market, like in the square. And the lights, they had dim lights. The night lighting was dim lights. Yeah, and I haven't been there for 9 years. So everything has kind of, well, not much, but it changed. So I'm walking, and of course I come home for the first time, I have high heels. I'm walking on high heels, being pregnant. Then I think by myself, I'll take them off, because I had 2 big suitcases. Ons Wilma had to look after onze Toon. Onze Jean had, because he was the hardest one to look after. Onze Jean had to look after onze Jean, and they all had a little bag. And so I took my shoes off. Jean, I think, was the one that carried my shoes. And then I thought, oh my God, the ground was kind of damp and wet. And I thought, oh, that's all I need. I'm going to get a miscarriage here if I do this. So I put my shoes back on and I went as far as our street came up. Like I had the main street and then the little street in where we lived. As soon as I was in that street, I put the 2 suitcases against the wall, and we were then there was a long wall from that house, and then was our house, our backyard, and then our house. So it was from here to that house there, a little bit far to the back of that house. So I walked, and then I knock on the window. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I knock on the window. Who is it? It's Zus, like they call me Zus. It's Zus. Zus who? I said, yeah, you only got one. I said, the one from Canada. Oh my God, oh my God. Yeah, so onze vader comes to the door, to the back door, and I walk with the kids to the back door. The kids, by that time, have never seen my parents except in a picture. My father comes in his long johns, no glasses, no teeth. Then comes my mother with a long nightgown, no glasses, no teeth, a hairnet. Oh my God. And yeah, they're old. Yeah, the kids, well, it scares the living daylights out of onze Toon. He starts to cry, and I want to go see Daddy, I want to go see Daddy. Oh my God. So finally got in. Then my sister and her husband were home. They came to stay home because, yeah, my mother and father had been the whole day in Amsterdam. My brother was home. So they come downstairs. I said to my brother, I said, you and he, because I didn't know my sister's husband, I said, you and him, you go and get my suitcases there by Van der Zand against the wall. Oh my God, yeah, so they ran to get my suitcases. So here we are. So then finally we go to bed, they put us to bed, and yeah, then we slept for a couple hours and then we got up. And then of course the neighbors next door, they were at my place the year before to visit, so they came to see. And then they said, so then my mother was making breakfast and she says, well, what do you want? And onze father was eating bacon, and they had these big pieces of bacon and that thick, you know, and that was so good always, because you were brought up like that. I said, I want speck like onze father. Oh, okay. So I got, oh Claire, I got so sick. Yeah, my stomach wasn't up to that anymore. That was pure grease, what you eat. Oh, I got so sick. And then the woman next door says, yeah, I could have told you that. Because I said, yeah, why didn't you? Jesus. But yeah, she didn't. So, no, that was my experience, my first experience. And then on St. Toon, they had the long pants on, which over there they had short pants. So on St. Toon and Jean had navy blue long pants on. And white shirtje with a tie. Yeah, that was what they had on yesterday when they were in the plane. So that's what they were wearing. And St. Toon, first of all, he goes to investigate outside. So he is at the back door, and there was a board that was kind of loose. My father was going to fix that. So St. Toon fixed it for him. He kept pulling and pulling, just as long till he pulled the whole fucking board off. He left it there. So that was number one. Then St. Toon went for a walk. And nobody realized, because we were all talking and talking. Finally, Wim realized, where is Tony? Where's Tony? Oh my God, where is he? Yeah, well, nobody knew. So then Wim went to look. He took the little street to the big street. That was the main street, the provincial road. He crossed it over. Very dangerous, but there weren't too many cars, thank God. Then he walks by the garage where Dad used to work. Well, he didn't know that. And then there was a store beside it, and they had these machines where you can purchase chocolate bars and stuff like that. And he's never seen that, because I've never been with the kids anywhere to purchase something out of a machine. And he's going like that. But he had no money or nothing. He didn't know what he was doing. And then over there was the store, the butcher shop, and I used to work for them. So Leo was in the shop, and he says to his wife, Rick, come and see. I bet your zus is home, because everybody in town knew I was coming home with 4 kids. Zus is home because look at them kids. Look at that kid there. And he was so differently dressed. Daar gaat de bizusses. Okay. Yeah. So she came out, and then onze Wim came. They saw onze Wim go to him, and onze Wim picked him up and took him home, brought him home. And then the next day, he goes and investigates across the road from us. They were good neighbors, and they had chickens. Yeah, and our kids never seen chickens, right? So he goes and investigates there in the chicken coop, and he finds the eggs. He pinched 7 eggs against the wall. And then the woman chased them out, and then she came to our house, and she said to ons vader, dat jong van zus, 7 eitjes, she says. Yeah, and eggs were expensive. Eggs were expensive in them days. So onze vader paid for the eggs, maar onze vader gave him a good lesson in Dutch. He couldn't understand what he said, but he knew damn well that he was a good boy. Jesus.
Tell me about
Ome Wim and
Tante Tony here.
Well, Ome Wim was, at first, when he was a kid, he was in high school. Like, he went to high school for 2 years. Then he didn't want high school no more. Then he quit. He became a painter. Painting walls and like in a paint shop with a painter. And then he had to go in the army. So then when he was in the army, he met Tante Tony, because that was in Breda. He was in the army in Breda, and Tante Tony was from Breda. So he was in the army there, so he met her. Then when he got out of the army, He was only, I think, 2 years in the army, like, because you would get called for 2 years, and then, because there was no war or nothing, so then you were, so then he became a guard in the jail, because that was right there by Tantoni's. So then he became a guard in jail, and he was there for about 5 years or 7 years, I don't know. And then he went to the, because a guard in the jail, that is a government job. And then he went to work on the railroad, because that's government too. The railroad is government in Holland. And so then with his years in government from that would count for his pension later on the railroad. And in the railroad he became head conductor. And he was the head conductor on the passenger trains. That's what he did. And he had a run from the north of Holland all the way to Belgium. To Antwerp, in Belgium. That was mainly his route. Sometimes he had smaller routes, but that was mainly his route that he had to go. So, and I was there when he retired. I was at his party when he turned 65. Then he had to retire from, and the railroad gave him a big party at a big restaurant, and we were all there. Yeah, that was nice. The year that I was pregnant with Michael, that summer, Opa and Oma Vossen came from Holland. They stayed with us for 3 weeks. 3 weeks with us, 3 weeks with Uncle John, 3 weeks with Uncle Jerry. They were here 9 weeks. So then they left just before Michael was born. Then Michael was born a couple of weeks after they left.
What did he do for a living?
Well, he worked for the city too, but he laid stones more for the city. Yeah, he did a good job, whatever. But he was not the hardest worker. He was very much in music. He was very much in music. And I bet you I have, I'll send you that too, a picture where he has with his own kids a band. Yeah, Tante Alwien and I think Ome Joep and Ome Hendrik and Ome Tony and him. And he was the director of the man's choir, him. He was the director. See, and that put his nose in the air, because that was better than what most people are, right?
Was he a singer, or did he play instruments?
No, he
Conductor?
Yeah. He stond met stukskut.
Did Opa ever
Opa played the trombone. Opa played the trombone. I might have a picture of that. I'll send you that too. I'll see what I have. And yeah, they were in the band. Opa was in the band, like my husband. He was, when he was young, he was in the band, but he was in the man's choir. He was not in the big band with all the instruments. He was with the singing choir. And
was the choir with the church, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The next summer, in May, until Mike was in the hospital, he had, what was it, impetigo or something, I don't know. And so he was in the hospital. My mother and father were arriving in Montreal. Yeah, they came in the big boat, like a luxury liner, the Rijndam, from the Holland-America line. But that was very common that the parents, because there were so many people had emigrated, so the parents would want to go and visit their kids, right? So they came with, there was mainly all parents from, and there was about 3,000 people on that boat. Yeah, there was a town by itself. Yeah, and they said they had a good time. Yeah, then people get served at home. They have to do, and they have a room for themselves, and everything was luxury, right? And they weren't used to that. Oh yeah, they enjoyed it. They had a good time. So then they arrived in Montreal. Tante Marietje took ons Wilma en John en Toon en onze Jane. No, ja, onze Jane. Onze Jane was bij, maybe bij dingen. And the boys at the Strijbosjes maybe. But they were all in Straat-Roy. We drove all the way to Montreal to pick up my mother and father. Jan Kortenbach had picked up my mother and father at the boat, took them home to their place. We drove to his place in Longueuil, that's where he lived. Then we stayed there overnight too, and then we drove the next day on Monday we drove home, and we had told Tante Jos that we would be at her place at lunchtime for lunch. She wanted us to come for lunch. She wanted to meet my mom and dad. So we made it, but yeah, it was a little late. Instead of 12 o'clock, it was 1 or 1:30. My him was still home. So we had a late lunch there, and then we drove to Straat-Roy from there, from Brampton, and then we picked up the kids, and then we finally went home. And that was on Hegel Street too, on that small house. And Mom and Dad slept in the boys' bed, and the boys, at night they would go in my bed, and then when we go to bed, the boys would go on the couch in the living room. And see, and then as well, my Jane, they could still sleep in their room, and onze Mike slept in the crib. Oh yeah, and they visited with us all, because there were so many people that had emigrated they knew from our hometown, and especially in Straat-Roy and Watford and there. And yeah, we were in Sarnia, so that was close enough to go and visit. The farthest they went is to Niagara Falls. That was the farthest, but otherwise it was more in Grand-Bend and what was it? Arkona, Grand-Bend, Arkona, Straat-Roy, Watford, and then play, because it was mainly farmers that had moved. And yeah, and ons vader knew everybody. Onze vader knew everybody. He was so well known, and he knew everybody. So in the morning I would feed Michael and give him a bath. And before 10 o'clock, that was always, the kids went to school at 9 o'clock, and then between 9 and 10, I would give him a bath, and then I would feed him and put him in the buggy. And then my mother and father would take the buggy, and they would go for a walk. They come home at lunchtime, kids come home from school, and they have lunch, and then Mom and Dad would be home too. And then my mother would feed Michael, and then Michael would go to bed for a while in his crib, and then she would help with the dishes, and my father would peel potatoes, or my mother would sit and peel potatoes, and my father would help me with the dishes, and like every day's job. And then my father would would clean up outside, like every week. He would cut the grass, and he would go to the neighbor and cut the grass at her place. And They kept themselves really busy, and then after Michael woke up in the afternoon, and she would feed him, and then they would go for another walk again. And before, it was funny, before they left in September, Michael's first birthday, and they left just before his birthday, and they went all the way on their own to Sears, to the Sears store, and they bought him a pair of overalls. Well, he was going to be a year old, so they bought him a pair of overalls and little socks and a little top with it, and they did it all on their own. But then I found out I knew there was Dutch girls, like people that spoke Dutch working in the store, and they found that out on their own when they had gone through the store, because they thought that was fantastic, that they could just walk in the store and not have to buy anything, but just go and look. They did that lots of times. They went to the store for a walk and then go and look at, so they must have decided that already. And then they came home with Michael's present. So I couldn't believe that they had done that on their own, but they did.
Because they didn't speak any English.
No, because my father would walk to the Dutch store by himself. You would walk through the pass and then across Murphy Road, and the other side of Murphy Road was the Dutch store. Yeah, and they were Dutch people, so he could talk there and sit there for a bit and talk with all the Dutch people that were there. And then he would come back, and then he would walk back over the main road, the 402 highway, and because that was easier because then he had groceries with him, and he would walk over the 402, and then the first road to the right was our street. So one day he was walking with heavy bags, and somebody had stopped a Volkswagen, and a woman with a Volkswagen stopped, and she asked him if she was English, if he wanted a ride, and he didn't know what she said, and so he finally figured out that she was asking where he was going, and so he says Hegel Street, but he said Hagele Street, and so then she says, "Come in, I'll take you," and so she drove him, and he took the chance, and he went in with the car with her, and she drove to Hegel. Well, she must have known, and so she drove, and here comes the Volkswagen on our driveway, and Smother and I are sitting. It was nice weather, and we were sitting outside in the carport, and we had a table there, and we were sitting at the table in the car. I said, "What's now?" I said, "That's onze vader in the car." And I have no clue who that is. Ja, maar hoe kan onze vader, onze moeder, how can dad be in somebody else's car that you don't even know? En ik zeg, "Yeah, you got me, I have no clue." And here comes onze vader eruit, and then the woman opened her door and she waved and she said goodbye, and she left. And here come, ik zeg, what is this? And so he told me, that the woman stopped, and he told her, niks verstaan. I don't understand, niks verstaan. And so then he told her that we lived on Hagele Street, so she knew where Hagele Street was. And then she drove me home, he says, and that was a nice woman, he says, to do that. I said, "Yeah, sure, but I still, up till today, I don't know who she was."
What changed for you because you came here?
Well, when we came here, the change was you were your own boss. That was one thing, that was big. You could do what you want, and you did the best, what you thought was the best. And you had money, like you made money. Well, you were very careful with it. We didn't go to restaurants or anything. We never ate out unless we came from the zoo to Strathroy for a visit. Yeah, then you had to go into a restaurant, but otherwise we didn't. I mean, and you were sure that you had a job. I was sure that he would always have a job because there were so many more cars here. So you hardly saw a car at home, but here there was a lot of cars. Well, not like now, but there was already a lot of cars. So I was sure that we always had money coming in, that he had a good job. And I knew he was a good mechanic. Oh, what a time. But you are lucky that you didn't have to go through all that. That's for damn sure.
Well, it sounds like when you went through so much and there was so much moving and coming to the new country versus the old, and what do you think about that? Looking back on it now, do you think you made the right decision?
I made the right decision, all right. But I keep thinking if I had to do it again, I don't think I could. Well, not at my age anymore, anyways. But I think today, in this day and age, I don't think if I had the age like I was then, I don't think the kids today could do it anymore like that. But yeah, in them days you didn't know any better. And you weren't used to much.